This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. The World Government Summit is taking place as we speak. And I'm sitting through a lot of the conference that they're having out there because this is where they reveal what their plans are for all of us. So while the alt-right media is busy talking about men being men and women being women, they're not informing people out there of what these globalists actually have planned for us. And of course, that's done by design. And it's not a coincidence that AI governance continues to be the theme at the same time that Donald Trump is bringing in AI infrastructure in America. And Larry Ellison was speaking at this conference, and you need to listen to the stuff that Larry Ellison says. He is yoked up with Donald Trump. You might remember on day one when Donald Trump talked about the AI infrastructure, he brought Larry Ellison out, Larry Ellison of Oracle, and he talked about those personalized custom shots that they're going to have for all of us in order to cure cancer. I'm sure most of you remember, and a lot of people out there couldn't believe that on day one, Trump once again was out there talking about personalized custom gene editing, but nonetheless, he did until people do not see that Donald Trump is one of them implementing the New World Order governance structures. So I took some clips from Larry Ellison speaking. I broke it down into 3 parts so you could hear each one specifically about AI superintelligence. Again, spewing at the mouth about how there's going to be these personalized shots for all of us to cure cancer. He goes on to talk about the digital ID, which is very important for people out there to pay attention to, and biometrics, how passwords will be obsolete by the end of 2025. They've been conditioning you with that, with pass keys and other things, using your finger, using your retina to scan. This is part of what they are going to implement. Biometrics, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking mark of the beast. We're talking digital IDs. Then, of course, he goes on to talk about AI governance. So let me play for you the first clip where he talks about AI superintelligence. And this is important for anybody who is a U.S. citizen because Larry Ellison is going to be standing right next to Trump the entire way where they're talking about AI governance infrastructure, talking about data and how we need to get everything digitized and online. That's one of the big things. And you might think that that's not a big deal because, of course, you do most of your things online, right? But they want everything online. That means your birth certificate, your passport, your social security, every single thing you've ever done, any hotel you may have ever stayed at, any doctor's office appointment you've ever made, any health history, all of it. The data that they're building, these data centers, is you tracking and monitoring everything about you, including your genetic code and your genetic structure. Because what they're ultimately talking about when they talk about gene editing is editing what it means to be a human being via this technology. So let's start here with the AI superintelligence. And again, listen to him talk about how AI, it's almost like a new brain. AI is able to figure things out that humans can't figure out. How important it is to move forward with AI superintelligence and how his dear friend Elon Musk is going to be standing at his side as they bring this in.
Just to start with a general question. I mean, I sometimes describe this technology revolution as the 21st century equivalent of the 19th century industrial revolution, maybe more so. Give us your sense of the scale of this revolution, where it's taking us, and its implications, particularly for a lot of the people who are here today who are in government.
Well, about 18 months ago, when we began to fully grasp what the people at OpenAI, ChatGPT had achieved, a level of artificial intelligence that would actually advance human thinking. We created neural networks that could answer questions that human brains would struggle with. When we came to grips with that, I made a speech and I said, is artificial intelligence the most important discovery in the history of humankind? And question mark, maybe. We'll soon find out. 18 months later, I think it's very, very clear. It is a much bigger deal than the Industrial Revolution, electricity, whatever, everything that's come before. We will soon have not only artificial intelligence, but much sooner than anticipated, artificial general intelligence, and not in too distant future, artificial superintelligence. What is artificial and superintelligence? I'll quote my dear friend Elon Musk. Well, Elon said about artificial superintelligence, I'm not looking forward to being a house cat.
I mean,
so we will have incredible reasoning power, the ability to discover things that would elude human minds, because this next generation of AI is going to reason so much faster, discover insights so much faster, whether it's being able to diagnose cancer in early stages, or design therapies, custom design vaccines for those cancers, custom made for your genomics and your specific tumor antigens.
So AI superintelligence, this is the future that they're trying to build out, telling you the need for these data centers, how things have become, the system itself has become worn down. The system itself can't handle the information that it needs to handle, because the system that they want to build is a monitoring and tracking system that's going to monitor and track everything, including what's underneath your skin. These supercomputers are to pretty much enslave you. And remember, everything you do will be inside of these data centers. Everything that you say, and eventually everything that you think. When we have the Neuralink technology moving forward, placed inside many human beings around us, obviously not myself or people like you would never allow that. But you might look around and say, well, they'll never get away with that. People will never want that. All it takes is a little manipulation to get a lot of these suckers on board. So next up is the digital ID. And this is something they've been harping on at these events for years. Part of why they did the outbreak in 2020 wasn't just about poisoning people. It was about getting people on board with a digital ID. They were trying to get you obsessed with social tracking, right? Remember all of the tracking things, contact tracing, all that stuff? That was about the digital ID. They thought you would get so afraid of the propaganda and the fear that they were putting out that you would want it so that you knew if somebody next to you had it or didn't have it. You'd want to know where the person next to you was traveling to in case they went somewhere that was a hotbed for the disease. That was part of the hypnosis they were trying to create. It didn't work, but that doesn't mean that they're taking their foot off the pedal for the digital ID, because global enslavement runs through the digital ID. So here he is talking about the digital ID, Tony Blair, who has been an advocate for the digital ID for a long time. I have many videos on the website where Tony Blair is openly, constantly obsessing with the digital ID. In fact, he was one of the people who said we needed a digital passport during the outbreak, and how we would need to know who has it and who doesn't. So who could be allowed to come in places and who couldn't be allowed to come in places like restaurants, etc. And since then, Tony Blair has just shifted his propaganda on why we need a digital ID, because they couldn't use that narrative anymore. So he uses the digital ID as something that we need to be able to follow the immigrant crisis, who's coming in, who's coming out. And that's exactly what Donald Trump has shifted to here in America, to get MAGA on board with a digital passport, probably be called in America a freedom passport or something ridiculous like that, because that's all it takes for these people to actually get on board with these globalist agendas. Just label it freedom, red, white, and blue. Oh yeah, I'm in on the digital. It's the freedom mark of the beast, right? I'm sure that'll be next. But here he is talking about how passwords will be obsolete. I've talked about this. They've been conditioning you with passkeys. I'm sure you've all noticed it, how hard they're making it for you to log into Gmail or whatever email account you use, websites, etc. They're making it difficult because they want you to give in and use biometrics. They want you to say, okay, what do I have to do here? Well, scan your retina, use your thumbnail, right? At first, when they did that with the cell phone, people were going, I can't believe this. So get into my Apple phone, they want me to use my eyes or my thumb. Now they're like, well, you're using a passcode still? Boy, you're like a caveman. That's how it works. That's how they condition you, right? So the passkey is something that they've been using and annoying people with every time they log in, because they're trying to get you to give in. And eventually you're going to have to, because they're going to remove passwords. They're trying to tell you that it's dangerous to have a password. It's hackable. You've heard the propaganda about your ID being stolen and all of this stuff, people pretending to be you, because passwords are so easily hackable. The only one hacking anyone's passwords is your own government. That's it. They're the only ones doing it. And they're creating psyops around it, telling you that these boogeymen hiding out in Russian factories, are hacking people's, AT&T phones and all these other things to make you guys scared, make everybody scared, so they give into biometrics and they tell you that you can't be hacked via biometrics. So here he is talking about biometrics and a digital ID being needed moving forward with AI governance.
And when you come to government and what government's doing, there are artificial intelligence tools, and some of them I know that Oracle have developed around financial management for government. But also, tell us a bit about because you're right at the forefront of this revolution, what it means for what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, digital ID, data centers, and so on. I mean, we're here in the UAE, which is really at the forefront of the use of AI in government. One of the things that people often ask from developing countries, but also developed countries, is, well, what's the importance of having that basic digital infrastructure in place? Cloud services, data centers, digital identity. How important are these things to put in place so that the rest of the system works effectively?
Well, I think one of the most important things is not to put the digital infrastructure in place and make sure it is secure. And often it needs to be sovereign. So I think countries are very uncomfortable with keeping their data in other countries' data centers. So I think part of our essential infrastructure, just like airports obviously need to be in our country, or they're not terribly useful. Ports need to be in our country, and they're not terribly useful. Data centers, because of the privacy requirements around the data, need to be in our countries, or they're not terribly useful. They need to be in our countries, but they also need to be secure. And there are new technologies right now. This is the last year you will ever log on to an Oracle system with a password. Next, by the middle of this year, I'm quite certain you are Tony Blair. So how do I know? Well, I look at you, I hear your voice, I listen to the kind of questions you ask. I'm pretty sure you're not synthetically created in having this conversation. The security system, we have biometric logins. The computer recognizes you. It recognizes your voice. It might ask you to put your index finger on the return key. And we're absolutely certain it's you. There's no reason to enter a password. In fact, passwords are too easily stolen. Data centers and data is being taken hostage all over the world. The ransomware business is a very, very good business. It's getting bigger and better every year. We tend not to talk about it because the American FBI has a simple advice to someone whose data has been ransomed. Just pay them, because there's nothing we can do about it. But there is something we can do about it, not after the data is stolen. But before the data is stolen, we can make sure that we're using the latest security technology, and it is going to be biometrics assisted by AI to make sure that you are, in fact, Tony Blair, and I'm sure you are.
So, of course, that is just an utter control system nightmare. That's what they're trying to bring about, this digital ID. People think, well, what's the big deal? I shop online. What's different between having a license and a digital ID? Oh, it's a big difference. It's a big, big difference because everything is tied into the digital ID. Your license is just your license, just like your passport is just your passport. You probably rarely have to use your license in your day-to-day life. Anyway, your digital ID will be everything. Tracking and monitoring your carbon footprint, most importantly, which means tracking and monitoring your every move and your every purchase in the name of the climate, but really in the name of personal enslavement. And last but not least, we get into AI governance and how the governments need to start building out AI governance, what this means. Governments have to change now, right? And all people hear is, oh, okay, governments have to change. So what he does here is exactly what I've been talking about. They're doing all this stuff with Doge and having Elon Musk come out and tell you that your tax money is going to Sesame Street in Iraq and all this ridiculous stuff so that you want change. They're not telling you this because they care about you. In fact, they're making up such ridiculous stories about where your tax money is going that it's making people actually consider not paying their taxes. It's making people say we need to tear this entire thing down. So it's being done by design. They would never tell you this stuff unless there was a reason to tell you to get you on board with something else. And he talks about all this stuff. You won't believe what Elon Musk has found. Oh my goodness, there's people who are 150 years old who are still collecting Social Security. I mean, I'm thinking that they're probably dead since they're 150. So the infrastructure is messed up and people's tax money is going to dead people's bank accounts. And people's tax money is just getting poured out into the garbage. They're dumping gasoline on it and burning it. So what we need is new infrastructure, right? And this is the exact thing that the Trump administration has been doing, convincing you that we need AI infrastructure because of all the stuff that Democrats have been doing with your tax money. Instead of holding these people accountable, instead of refusing to pay taxes, instead of taking these people out of positions of power and removing them, which our Constitution tells us we can do if they're not acting accordingly. And of course, they're not just not acting accordingly. These people have all committed treason because we can find connections with all of them in secret societies and the oaths that they take, which is to one another and not to us. So they should all really be arrested. But here he is talking about how, well, you know, the way things are, keep in mind, he says something along the lines of, the way the system's set up now, you could vote us out of office. And he says us, right? This is the guy who runs Oracle. Last I checked, he wasn't on the quote unquote ballot this year. But he's talking about voting us out. Just more truth in plain sight with how these corporations run and control everything. Listen to this.
Larry, just because we're tight on time, I mean, you've got a lot of people here from government, also from the technology sector. One of the hardest things is to get the people in government to understand just the how much in government is going to change, how you might reimagine the way that government functions, and also to get the people with the technology, with the enabling technology, into the right dialogue with them. Okay, because it's this is a new world, right? How do you keep on top of these developments, and what would your advice be? I mean, you've got a lot of people from governments around the world. What would your advice be to someone in government trying to figure all this out, trying to work out how they make sense of this huge revolution in technology to deliver better services for their citizens? What should be their attitude and mind? And maybe, if you don't mind also, what's the skill set you need to bring into government?
Well, I think one of the biggest changes, I can talk about my country and a little bit about the UK as well. The people now expect in a democracy that we provide a high level of service. Government provides a high level of service, where people get very dissatisfied and they vote us out of office. And people, one of the services, the most expensive service we provide typically in our countries is healthcare. Healthcare, and when people expect high quality healthcare, people even talk about healthcare being a human right. We can deliver healthcare at a much lower cost. I mean, not only do we get much better outcomes, but by early diagnosis, better therapeutics, better population health, and we can get all of that as long as countries will put their data, their healthcare data, all of it, in a single place where we can use AI to help manage the care of all of the patients and the population at large. We can deliver a very, very high quality service. But that's also true of a variety of social services, not just healthcare, if we're having supplementary housing. And we can do it, and we can also eliminate all of the fraud. I think one of the most interesting things in the first couple of weeks of the Trump administration, and I think everyone is shocked, and by the way, including Elon and the president and me and everyone, though I don't want to lump myself in that, and that's quite a group. I'll just Elon and the president, on the amount of fraud, and the government system's not catching them in our country, in the United States, the vast amount of fraud that's going on in our systems, and we didn't know. No one went, because they're such primitive IT systems. People were able to get Social Security payments up to their 150 years old. Now, I would love to live to be 150 years old, and then I certainly would deserve my Social Security, though some people would argue I don't need it, but I'll take it. But if I live to 150, I'll take it. I would love that. But we can provide high quality services, save the government a vast amount of money. Our populations will be healthier. They'll have longer lifespans, and the government will be spending less while getting better outcomes. I think this will make for a happier citizenry, and dramatically improve the quality of our lives, of all of our citizens. And I think we just need to. The digital tools we have right now are so primitive that a lot of people have been able to defeat them. Whether it's someone taking over your utility or taking over your hospital and locking you out of all of the hospital data. You need to modernize. You need to seriously modernize your systems. But not only do you need to modernize your systems, again, let's take the UAE in particular, and we looked at the UAE very closely, and are talking with people in the UAE about the treasure of data that they have, and how they could deliver population health, improve the quality of life, improve the health span of the entire population by using modern technology, preparing their healthcare data, putting it in a single place, and then using these AI models to improve the quality of care.
So, of course, that's exactly how this entire thing is coming about. You're hearing all of these things by design. That Doge is finding all this stuff out. Then they're gaslighting you and doing all these things to get you angry by telling you your money's going here, your money's going there. They're not efficiently spending your tax money, right? And they don't care if you don't pay your taxes this year or not over things like this. They just care that you don't push back as they bring in the AI governance infrastructure. They want you to want it. And people out there are saying, we do need something more efficient so we could track every single dollar that is spent, every little thing. We want them to be audited. We want to see it. But it's not about auditing and tracking the government. Once this infrastructure is in place, it's about auditing and tracking you and every purchase you make. When they start implementing the carbon laws by 2030, every step you take is going to be a part of your carbon footprint. So they need this infrastructure in place. The data they're talking about is you. They're not, people hear data and they're just like, oh, it's information. And that's all they think of. It's you. It's every thought that you've put out into the world as of now, right? Everything you've written online. Those are the things that they want in their data center. So they have a profile on you. Every website you visit, everything you type, which is really, I've talked about uploading your consciousness. Think about how people act in today's society. They write things that they're thinking, do they not? On their Facebook, on their Twitter, a thought comes in their mind and they write it, right? It goes out into the NSA, into the government, and they store that. You said this on this day, this is how you're, and they build a profile on you. That's what these data centers are for. And eventually, like I've discussed with the Neuralink and some of this tech they've talked about at the World Economic Forum, what are they talking about? They're talking about getting technology inside of you where they can actually read your thoughts, right? What you're hearing right now about Neuralink is, it's a brain-computer interface where someone who's paralyzed can communicate with the computer and tell the computer to play solitaire or do something along those lines. It's about reading your thoughts. It's about telepathy, right? So eventually these data centers are going to have all your thoughts inside of them as well, and your digital twin. I could go on and on and on about this stuff, but it was important to pay attention to some of the stuff being discussed there because this is where they tell you what the plan is for us. This is where they tell you that, hey, these are what the plans are for everyone. We're not elected. We're all rich people meeting here, and we're telling you what the plan is, right? You never hear anybody still talking about AI governance, the digital ID. Did you ever hear the alt-right media? Of course not. Now, most of you don't listen to the alt-right media, but when you see them trending or you see their thumbnails and the stuff they talk about, like Taylor Swift booed at the Super Bowl, Donald Trump cheered, it shows you the level of thinking that we're at. And all these people who think that they're awake are just getting led into nonsense. They're paying attention to nonsense while they're building this out. This infrastructure that they're making you want is your enslavement. It is the end game, AI infrastructure. And of course, people don't realize that. All they're hearing about is how the government's pissing away their money and they're paying taxes for Sesame Street in Iraq. And all they're saying is, this is unbelievable. We need to go after him. We need to change this. That's exactly why they're telling you all of this, so that you say that, so that they can do that. AI governance is the name of the game. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you and your families as always.